अगर हम SME IPO की ग्रोथ देखें तो BSE SME IPO इंडेक्स जो कि 2022 के एंड पर 23,700 पर चल रहा था, वो अभी 1,13,700 पर चल रहा है. सो आई थिंक heads off and big applause to our SME team and MSME team कि लाइक इंडिया को जिस GDP ग्रोथ पर हम ले जाने का टारगेट कर रहे हैं उसमें MSME बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करने वाला है. मेरे साथ सारे चीफ गेस्ट जुड़े हुए हैं. माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच सर हमसे जुड़ने के लिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम. माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू विवेक सर. Sir, do we need some new NBFCs for providing seed capital?
Yeah, so good afternoon to everyone. Vivek, you have made a very important point, an issue which is very close to SIDBI's heart. You know, if you see the financial inclusion journey, a large role was also played and is also being played by the microfinance institutions. And we all know that MFIs have come up in the last 15 years, and SIDBI and other institutions had done very seminal work in, you know, sort of transforming these credit societies or informal lending operations into NBFCs, and many of these MFIs also became large enough to be licensed either as a universal bank or as many small finance banks, and they have made their contribution to financial inclusion journey. I think there is a very strong need for the second movement where we create NBFCs. I mean, so far if you see there might be so many NBFCs which are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. But top NBFCs, about top 40 NBFCs would be contributing to about 75 to 80% of the MSME credit. That's a fair amount of concentration if you take into account that India has started to live in tier 3, tier 4 cities. When I travel across the country, I realize that the business growth will not come from the major centers, but they will come from tier 3 and tier 4 centers, tier 5, 6 centers. So I see a very requirement of a movement or requirement of a program where we promote regional NBFCs, where we promote regional NBFCs through equity. We promote them, and not only equity, but we also, you know, come out with a capacity building package for them in terms of their, you know, increasing their management bandwidth, helping them come up with products, helping them in risk management. Same sort of movement is again required, which was seen in the MFI sector. That would mean that our tier 3, tier 4, 5, 6 centers have greater penetration of these finance companies, these NBFCs, apart from banks. And when there is competition, the ultimate winner is the customer in terms of service, in terms of interest rate, in terms of terms and conditions. So I suppose one more major program, one more major push is required to create a set of new NBFCs and help the small NBFCs grow. We see that the large become larger, but the small continue to be small. They take a very long time in take off. So that's my perspective on this.
बहुत सारी MSMEs जो कि इंडिया लेवल पर सक्सेसफुल हो सकती थी सर, बिकॉज ऑफ द रिसीवेबल मैनेजमेंट एंड बिकॉज ऑफ सम लिक्विडिटी कंसर्न उन्होंने उतना अच्छा नहीं किया. व्हाट डू यू थिंक कि सर जो एक नया प्लेटफॉर्म बना है, ट्रेड टर्मिनल जो बना है, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का ये जो इनिशिएटिव है, इससे कितना फ़ायदा मिलने वाला है और इसमें क्या अभी गैप्स हैं जो कि आपको लगता है कि जो फिल करने चाहिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को, सो दैट कि द MSME जो हमारा सेक्टर है वो बहुत अच्छे से प्रॉस्पर कर सके.
Thank you. And first of all, at the outset, let me thank PhD CCI for having arranged this wonderful conference, because we should be having more such conferences. If we all believe that MSME is the backbone of the economy, then we should be more, deliberating upon and speaking how we can take this particular segment forward. So you're right. In fact, apart from many other pain points, one of the major pain points for any MSME is to realize the receivables. So if I am a small MSME and I sell to a big corporate, so it should not be on the whims and fancies of the corporate that he pays me on 30 days or maybe in 60 days time, or maybe even in 90 days. And if he delays the payment by 1 month, believe me, that small MSME, which has very less capital, not only it has to bear the excess interest cost, but the liquidity is also jeopardized.
Right.
So I think having realized that, the government came out with the trades platform, wherein one can discount all the invoices that you have raised upon any of the corporates. So it was done in way back in 1819, I think. Over the last 2-3 years, these trade receivable exchanges, we have 4 of them presently, they have grown in leaps and bounds. So if I just to give you the figures, the total invoices that were discounted in the year 22-23 was 72,000 crores. Last year, 23-24, it went up to 1.4 trillion. And as we speak now, as on December, it has already touched 1.6 trillion. 1 quarter still to go. So that is the power of, trades platform. So the government also has recognized that, and earlier where the minimum turnover to get registration in any of the trades platform was 500 crores for any company, for any corporate to get registered, and it was mandatory. So last year's in budget speech, Honorable FM reduced it to 250 crores. So now there are many more corporates who are onboarded mandatorily on the trades platform. So one of the points is you can make somebody mandatory to be onboarded, but active, many of the big corporates are not active. So the whole platform, I think a panel before that, one of the, I think M1 Exchange, she was there. It is just you upload your invoice, the corporate accepts that invoice, and there are a lot of banks who are in that auction platform. So somebody bids at 8%, somebody bids at 7.75%. Just imagine the MSME, which is paying approximately 11.5 to 12% in its cash credit account, gets its invoice discounted at 7.75%. Because all the banks would be, competing with each other to get this business. So once that money is there, the MSME is facilitated to a large extent. Uska liquidity ekdam tandurust rehta hai. He gets the low discounted at such a cheap price. Mm-hmm. So some of the suggestions that we had already made and which I want to reiterate here, and if somebody is here from the MSME ministry can take note, we have already highlighted this. Let us make it mandatory, not only the registration part for the corporates, let us make it mandatory कि कम से कम 40%, 50%, 60%, whatever payments they want to make to the MSME suppliers, let it be routed through trades. So if we can make that mandatory, believe me, the MSME का सबसे बड़ा pain point during my 29 years of service and having dealt with credit for so long, it is the delayed receivables.
बिल्कुल सर, और बहुत अच्छा ये प्लेटफॉर्म आपने बताया, बट इसमें लिक्विडिटी का जो अभी इशू है, ऑफ कोर्स ये काफ़ी हद तक एडजस्ट हो रहा है, लेकिन एक और इशू जो कि हमने देखा कि MSMEs कंपनीज के साथ रहता है कि हमारी MSMEs डोमेस्टिकली तो दे आर डूइंग फैंटास्टिकली वेल, बट द पॉइंट इज़ कि एक्सपोर्ट फ्रंट पर अभी तक इतना अच्छा इनक्रीजिंग शायद डेटा नहीं मिला. तृप्ति मैम हमारे साथ हैं. तृप्ति मैम, आप बताएं कि हाउ डू यू सी द ग्रोथ ऑफ इंडियाज MSME एक्सपोर्ट, एंड क्या सजेशंस हैं आपके कि किस तरह से ये और एक अच्छी ग्रोथ हमारी GDP में ले जाकर MSME कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट?
Thank you, Vivek. And since morning, the two panelists, nobody uttered a word like export. So we are all talking about the domestic trade and not the export. And I was like, see, there is a lot that can be done, in this area. And obviously, our MSMEs and even the micro enterprises are contributing hugely for the export markets. We do not realize, maybe because we do not have the, the data available with us. To kind of, support that. And as we are all talking about, the data crunching and the data management basically, and the digital, the forms of the data management, which is then enabling the fintechs and the NBFCs, to kind of channelize the finance on the basis of this data, which is made available by these digital platforms. So basically, if there are certain dedicated platforms or even for the trades, where everybody gets registered and which is, a dedicated wing for the export where the MSMEs or anybody for, the micro enterprise who is doing the export can kind of segregate between the domestic and the export, the sale that they are doing. That database probably will be very, very helpful for obviously Exim Bank to channelize its finance as well as for NBFCs to, the segregate. For example, now as Exim Bank, obviously at, the audience would be aware that it is an export credit agency of the country and 100% owned by Government of India. And we run the mandate on behalf of, the government to facilitate the exports from India. Now, as a ECA of the country, we are a facilitator, right? So we are working with a lot of private sector, public sector banks, as well as, everybody who is into the export market for supporting by way of lot of credit enhancement. So when I talk about the credit enhancement, obviously, I'm talking about our very recent initiative, the trade assistance program, where we are talking about the countries like, the high risk countries like Cameroon, the middle risk countries, like Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and the good rated countries like the, the Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, or like 73 countries have been identified. And we would encourage, to the NBFCs and the MSMEs and the customers of, the lot of fintechs and MSMEs who are listening to this conversation to take assistance under this. And what we are trying to do, just a small example, very quickly, is for example, there is a trade happening, with say, for example, Ghana, where the banking sector or NBFCs may be constrained in terms of, the having the limits on the banks which are opening the LCs from this country is typically, the straight answer for such LCs which are open from the, the banks in Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, for example, is no, we do not have the limit available. Exim Bank under this trade assistance program can give the guarantee to the extent of 99%, in participation, or we can also cover the entire transaction to the extent of 100% under this trade assistance program. So we would like, the audience here to take, the help of this program from bank.
ग्रेट इनिशिएटिव मैम एंड सुरेश सर भी हमारे साथ हैं. सुरेश सर, एक जो MSME कंपनीज की प्रॉब्लम रहती है कि जब वो बैंक्स के पास जाते हैं तो थोड़ा सा उनको इंटरेस्ट रेट हाई मिलता है. क्या कुछ ऐसा हो सकता है, बिकॉज वी हैव सीन पास्ट की बहुत सारी जो बिग कॉर्पोरेट्स हैं उन्होंने पैसा बनाया कि उन्होंने लाइबोर बेस्ड लोन उठाए और उसके बाद फॉर एग्जांपल इंडियाज़ टॉप कंपनी वो लोन लेते हैं और लाइबोर बेस या इंटरनेशनल मार्केट से फंडिंग उठाते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ देयर क्रेडिबिलिटी एंड उस पर अदर इनकम उनकी बहुत अच्छी आ जाती है. दो दे आर हैविंग कैश इन देयर बुक्स बट दे आर गेटिंग द एडवांटेज ऑफ दैट क्रेडिबिलिटी. सर, MSME को जब पैसे की ज़रूरत है क्या हम इंटरनेशनल मार्केट से फंडिंग उठा सकते हैं और कितना बेनिफिट हमें मिल सकता है अगर है ऐसा पॉसिबल तो?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, thank you very much for PhD Chamber for organizing this wonderful event. So this is the wonderful platform to have an interaction with all the industry leaders as well as the business people. So the question to me, you see, generally the banker panel, usually it will be most sought, right? But many times it will end up with a lot of tall claims will be made by the panelist, but in the ground reality it will be different. So hope the entrepreneurs will be agreeing to the point which I am making, right? But let us be very practical. I will come to the ground, okay, what is really happening on the ground, let us see. The question to me is, sir, how to save my interest cost when I am going for the funding, right? Just before addressing this question directly, just I wanted to give today we are talking about MSMEs, right? MSME, micro, small and mediums. So this is the broad category. Okay, say there is no doubt MSMEs are a backbone to our countries. But micro segments, so where daily we are interacting, so our kirana stores, our mom and pop stores, say they contribute almost 80% of MSMEs. So just with this background, I am just dividing into micros separately and SMEs separately, right? See, micros all put together, it is a different ball game for the customer as well as bankers. Same thing when I am talking about MSME, it is altogether different because it is a somewhat organized sector. They know what is their strengths. Banks will be chasing them. So now when I go to micro, it is altogether different. So actually, bankers will be generally rejecting. So now first, let us talk about the creamy segment, which is the SMEs, where competition is huge and the customers they are in the hot spot. So they have to choose actually, right? So now when they are in the position to command the market, what is the opportunities available to them? See, again, coming to this topic, say today lending, unlike in the way, see, we started banking 20, 25 years back, that time our appraisal is totally different. Today it is completely digital driven, which you cannot imagine. So now if I am asking you someone, the entrepreneur, to name the name of the company, in the screen I can show you 160 pages ka reports within fraction of 2 seconds. If you just to spell out your name, I will show you about your company's background with about 100 plus pages ka report within a second. So today this is the environment, okay? And today you people are it is an invoice to invoice return filing. So when you are submitting your GST returns, it is a digitally you are submitting, and it is an invoice to invoice. So now banker will be in a position to understand from where you are buying, what quantity you are buying, what is your frequency, and banker statement, account statement will correlate this information, how you are making the payments. And all these are digitally available. So I will come to know what is your top line, what is your bottom line, and whether payments are going or not. So in today's environment, there is no need for experts to assess the loan, unlike in the old environment. So this is the point number 1. So the system will tell whether you are go or not to go, because probably SBI CGM sir will be acknowledging this. Quickly, say it is not more than half an hour generally, right? So now under this competitive environment, so how to reduce my cost, right? So here only this is we are playing. So we are the competitors, so all we are competitors. Then how we are differentiating, that message I wanted to pass on to you. So generally there is a 2 kind of loans, either it is a working capital or term loan funding, right? So now when I am going for a term loan funding, very remote chances for reducing your cost of funds, unless if you have an opportunity, go for a import of machineries. So if at all, if you are having an opportunity for importing the machinery, don't take the term loan in the day 1, right? So if you are going for a term loan, there is a rupee cost. It is associated with, normally it is high. The natural question will come, why cost is on a higher side? So in the developed nations like Japan, somebody wanted to deposit their deposits. Banker usually they will collect the charges like a locker. So cost of funds for the banks operating in the developed nations will be very, very cheap. So when the cost of funds is cheap, ultimately when they are going for a lending, cost of lending also will be cheaper. But in India, we are working in a different environment, and our pricing depends on rate of interest, inflation, repo policy rates. So marginally on a higher side. In certain spaces, it will be extraordinarily on a higher side. So when you are going for an import of your machinery, immediately you are not paying the cost to the bank. Only the commission for opening the LC will be paid. Now the machines are reached the port, and when you want to make the payment, don't do it. So again, there is an opportunity. You can convert as per the RBI. You can convert it for another 3 years in the form of buyer's credit, wherein we can give a comfort to the bank, which can be extended for another 3 years. So technically, 3 years, 3 months, you can drastically reduce your cost. Okay. So then only we can convert it into rupee term loan. Okay. Right. Now, sir, in the rupee now or working capital or when it comes on a rupee side, I don't want to incur any cost. So I wanted to take advantage of the foreign, whatever the customers they are enjoying at a foreign countries, the same rate I wanted to enjoy. So what is the way? Be it be a working capital loan or it is a term loan, right? So there are many people, like say now, few of them will be exporters will be there. They have an option of availing the loans in INR or foreign currency. They know the difference. If they are availing in a foreign currency, rate of interest will come down drastically. The same thing, we can give it to the domestic parties. So they need not be there to exports nor imports. So they may be buying the material only from domestic, they may be restricting themselves only to the domestic parties, but we can arrange the loan of foreign currency loans. So there is two types of sources against our FCNR deposits. We used to have deposits from our own customers, and we are having extended arms from other nations also. We are having branches or market we can borrow and we can give it we can pass it on this benefit to the customers, right? But only one problem, it comes with one small catch, right? Say for example, today, let's say I am borrowing 1 crore. For our practical purpose, let us make it 100, conversion is the 100 rupees. So $1 lakh I am buying today, right? So unlike our normal rupee loan, this will be, in your account statement, it will reflect as a dollar denominated loans. So when it comes for repayment, after say for example, after a year, that particular day, if rupee, there is a chances of appreciation or depreciation. So the rates may go against you. Say for example, if instead of 100 rupees, it has become 105. Already there is a 5% you are losing, right? So in order to avoid this, we can go for a hedging in the day one. So we can fix the predetermined rate on maturity at what rate you have to pay, right? So by collecting certain premium, rate of interest, hedging premium will be always cheaper than your normal rupee loan, right? So this is the way we can reduce the cost.
सर केवल एक छोटा सा आंसर कि इसमें अगर मैं इंडिया से लोन ले रहा हूँ, मैं एक MSME हूँ, मैं एक इंडियन बैंक से लोन ले रहा हूँ और आप फैसिलिटेट कर रहे हैं मुझे फॉरेन करेंसी लोन में, मुझे कितना स्प्रेड, मतलब मेरी कितनी कॉस्ट बच जाएगी, सेव हो जाएगी अगर मैं आपके थ्रू फॉरेन करेंसी लोन लेता हूँ?
So rate of interest always depends on various parameters, but minimum you can reduce your cost by 1.5%. Okay. So now let me complete with the last segment. See, now come to the micro segment. So as I said earlier, it is all totally different ball game. Okay. See, now everything today we are buying in Amazon and Flipkart. So government has already initiated ONDC, right? And the UPI has become a massive success. Now just I wanted to quote from Madam is there from NAP Samruddhi. See, many of the MSME entrepreneurs, they may not aware how the MFI have evolved in our country. Okay. See, it has started with way back in 1980s, 85, if I'm right. 500 self-help groups have formed and they have started with a 500 rupees loan. Bankers started implementing till 90s. Then it gradually evolved. Now today 10 microfinance institutions have become a bank and they are the competitor to us. The same manner, this micro segment will going to happen in future. See, today, like GST and ITR and bank account statement, for micro entrepreneurs, UPI is the bread and their heart. Okay, entire things are captured in UPI. Already government has last year, they have given a line of credit to these small vendors. Right now, it is only restricted to the banks. It is the other players are not allowed to enter, especially this fintech and NBFC they have not allowed. The moment the restriction is getting opened, it is near future. So you will see the massive change. This segment also will grow like a MFI only.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Bonhani ma'am, because you are the only NBFC person in this panel and most of the people are in the banking side. But ma'am, see, NBFCs के साथ थोड़ा सा ये रहा है कि उनकी जो फाइनेंसिंग प्रॉब्लम रहती है कि बहुत सारी हम NBFCs, because we are working in the stock market and we have seen that so many companies, so many NBFCs somehow are struggling through the financing problem. यही केस आपके साथ भी है MSME सेगमेंट में, और किस तरह से फंडिंग होती है आपकी और कितने रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का डिफरेंशियल रहता है? अगर मैं एक लोन लेने जा रहा हूँ बैंक से और एक लोन मैं लेने आता हूँ आपकी NBFC से, कितना डिफरेंस होता है और क्या फ़ायदा मिलता है मुझे आपकी NBFC से लोन लेने में?
Thank you. Very pertinent question. And being the only NBFC, again, I have to be very careful. I have to mind my words here. So basically, we are a wholesale lender. We take most of our loans from NABARD except for securitization, जिसके लिए we go to other NBFCs as well. So हमारा कहानी अलग है. But we are funding, like today we have 85 NBFCs, Section 8 companies, societies that we have funded, and 60% of our loan book is MSME. It would have been higher, but हमने अपना sectoral exposure norm लगा दिया. बिकॉज कोई भी सेक्टर ज़्यादा नहीं जा सकती है, इसीलिए हम कोशिश करके आज व्हीकल फाइनेंस कर रहे हैं, जबकि डिमांड इज़ फॉर MSME. सो दैट्स द ग्रोथ इन द MSME सेक्टर वी हैव सीन. एंड व्हेन वी आर फाइनेंसिंग थ्रू दिस, ये 85 में से 60 और 70 आई थिंक वुड बी टुडे who are financing NBFCs very aggressively because there is a demand. Pricing का अगर issue कहे या कहे कि the availability of funds for NBFCs, definitely NBFCs don't have CASA. So pricing is an issue. Because they don't have CASA, they can pass on a lower cost. Again, अगर हमसे ले रहे हैं compared to maybe other smaller NBFCs, definitely there will be a pricing advantage, but not too much because again we don't have CASA. So it is like that. Some NBFCs, a few NBFCs who are deposit taking, are taking fixed deposits, which is not at a very low rate. So again, there will be a price advantage, but very little that way. So that's why when people talk about high rates of interest, it's not because of anything endemic, it's because of the sector. The sector does not have access to low-cost funds today, whether they want to fund MSME, microfinance, vehicle, whatever it is. Availability of funds is also definitely a concern, and in this, I feel a lot of policy related reviews can come in, because I think just now Mr. Paul talked about the hedging cost, but we have seen in our NBFCs, we gave a loan for wash, and another like ECB came in from an international lender. Their loan was higher ultimately with the hedging, but advantage was they could give 200 or 300 crore of loans, जो हम नहीं कर सकते हैं, because it is also size specific. So that's how the pricing works out. और pricing में और एक अभी disadvantage है कि when it is through FPI, अभी withholding tax भी बहुत high है. So इसके वजह से भी उनको pricing का issues हो रहा है आज, and when they have to pass on taking into account their OPEX. So compared to other lenders, NBFC's OPEX is higher because they are catering to the last mile. In fact, we are able to touch the last mile because of NBFCs and Section 8 companies, but उनको वहाँ तक ये सर्विस देने में, I am talking about finance as a service, ये देने में बहुत कॉस्ट पड़ता है, because उनका अभी टेक्नोलॉजी कॉस्ट तो है ही, साथ में the actual OPEX of branch banking is very, very high, KYC cost is still very high. So these are the supports that can come in about reducing that pricing, number one. And number two is the risk cost, because they are catering to a segment where most of the banks are not going, sir, with apologies. So we know, I have seen a borrower who has a line of credit from a banker at 8%, whereas this NBFC has given him a loan at 24%. He said, I will still take that loan because for the bank I have to go there twice or thrice with my papers. ये भैया लोग घर में आके लोन दे के गए हैं, मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है, मैं धंधा करना है, मुझे बैंक में जाके टाइम वेस्ट, बहुत दूर है, बैंक नहीं करना है. So this last mile and this home delivery of loans is what NBFCs are doing. Therefore also their cost is higher. And one more thing is that what is affecting them also today is the credit discipline, because बहुत जगह पे loan waiver का announcements हो रहा है, which is absolutely एब्सोल्युटली बोगस, एब्सोल्युटली फ्रॉड. सो गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कैंपेन भी चाहिए कि आपने अगर लोन लिया है तो आपको वापस भरना ही पड़ेगा. दिस इज़ वन मोर इशू आई वांटेड टू फ्लैग फॉर MSMEs एज वेल. उनका financial education is very important, because today we have National Center for Financial Education who is catering to students. But what about MSMEs? Do they understand what is taking of finance like? What are the processes? What they have to be ready for? What are the supports available? And most important, if they have taken a loan, they have to ensure the end use. अभी मिसयूज भी हो रहा है फंड्स का. दैट इज लीडिंग टू ओवर लिवरेजिंग, दैट इज लीडिंग टू लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रेस इन द मार्केट. इस साल फॉर NBFCs इट्स नॉट बीन अ गुड ईयर बिकॉज ऑफ द स्ट्रेस, बिकॉज ऑफ द ओवर लिवरेजिंग. सो एंड यूज assurance as well as credit discipline is something that can be taken up on a campaign mode to ensure that there is more flow of funds to the NBFCs, to the MSMEs.
आई नो विवेक सर, आपका थोड़ा टाइम शॉर्ट हो रहा है, लेकिन मैं लास्ट क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ सर आपसे. सर जैसा मैम भी बोल रही थी कि MSMEs में NBFCs का रोल इम्पॉर्टेंट है. डू यू थिंक कि रीजनल बेस जो NBFCs हैं उनको प्रमोट करने की ज़रूरत है? बिकॉज एक रीजनल प्लेयर को पता होता है कि उसके स्टेट में किस पर्टिकुलर चीज़ के लिए किस तरह के लोगों का बिहेवियर है, किस तरह से किस पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट के लिए डिमांड है, कहाँ पर लोग ज़्यादा फोकस करते हैं. Do you think that kind of demand is, is there from the regional side?
Very much. I think it's very much required that we promote regional NBFCs. And smaller NBFCs, we bring smaller NBFCs up to a particular level, and we inject domestic capital in them, because foreign capital is not patient capital. We require, patient capital for these NBFCs. One more point which I want to make is that, TREDS platform was spoken. आई थिंक NBFCs को भी ट्रेड्स प्लेटफॉर्म पे आने की एक बहुत इन अ वेरी बिग फैशन वेरी मच रिक्वायरमेंट इज़ देयर, प्राइमरली बिकॉज फॉर बैंक्स this is one of the business lines, but for NBFCs it could be just one of their three business lines. So I think the focus would be much more if we can create a structure, or if we can create a fund, a credit guarantee fund or a liquidity fund, where they are able to not only do the working capital financing, the invoice financing, but also do what we can call as micro enterprises financing. So regional NBFCs, and push them for the working capital financing in the form of invoice financing, not in the form of business loans, because invoice financing is much more flexible. And within that invoice financing, if a law can be established or the structure can be established for e-liens, then I think cash credit, as we have seen in the past, maybe in the next 10 years it would go away, and invoice financing would take roost. I think with this, if you permit me, I have some other commitment. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sure. एक जो डिमांड आ रही थी इंडस्ट्री की, वो ये थी कि जो बिग बैंक्स हैं उनकी जो 40% का जो PLI का एक रहता है, PSL का रहता है, उसमें सर कितना आपको लगता है कि बड़े बैंक्स को कुछ रिलैक्सेशन मिलना, क्योंकि उनकी बैलेंस शीट का साइज बहुत बड़ा है?
While speaking with you, I mentioned that. Before I take on this PSL thing, I think somebody mentioned from this dais that PSU banks are still, not up to that, digital lending kind of a thing. I think it is not totally correct. So speaking about State Bank of India, the largest bank, we have a totally digital product up to 5 crores. So if you are an MSME, you want a loan, say 30 lakhs, you log on to our site, you punch in all the data and get the GST, data after your concern, get the IT returns with your consent. Using the account aggregator services or statement of account, we can give you an instant digital sanctions. The whole process does not take more than 30 to 40 minutes. Speaking of SBI, we launched it in January 24. One full year, January 24 to December 24, we did more than 95,000 applications totaling 30,000 crores. So that is how the platform behaves. And we are very proud, being the largest bank, we did it up to 5 crores. And we, DFS sought for how did we do it, and probably it is after the other PSU banks to implement this digital lending platform. Now we are thinking of extending it up to 50 crores. So it will cover the whole ambit of MSMEs. They can have a digital, sanctions, and जो पुराना एक होता था कि आपको लोन चाहिए तो 1 महीना समय लग जाएगा, you can get it within 30-40 minutes. That I wanted to say because I was sitting there and I was wanting to speak out. भाई ऐसा नहीं है. PSU banks are the forefront in digital lending, and we are far more ahead in technology than what usually people perceive us to be. Anyway, regarding the PSL front, I think 40% PSL targets has been given to all the banks, whether big or small. For us, State Bank of India, we have such a large portfolio, and we are into a lot of infrastructure financing where we finance to big corporates, we finance to roads, bridges, everything we do. And to get again 40% from PSL is a little tall task. So our only ask is you divide the whole group of banks into two parts, the bigger banks and the relatively smaller banks, so that this particular target of PSL can be given accordingly. For us, it becomes very difficult. We have more than 33 trillion of, ANBC, if you see, it is more than 33 trillion. Uska 40% would be, huge.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was the last question, sir. Thank you very much.